So this is your second exhibition at Sadie Cole's HQ. I thought perhaps we could start talking about these two sculptures and their columns that you've made in the last 6 months or so. I wonder if you could talk a bit about how you first developed the work.
Well, these two pieces of column, actually, I started to work on them from 2022, January, when I got the commission from Highline, and that's also the time I started my residence in Asia Cultural Council in New York. So that is the right time that I had a chance to stay in New York for 6 months, and I got a chance that because Highline's in New York, so that's perfect that I have more time to go and visit their gardens and spend time to learn more about the plants they grow in the garden when learning with the gardeners or who walk over there. So and after a month that spending time with those plants in the garden, that I started to have an idea that wanted to make sculpture working on the nature form of these plants what I get in the garden. So that's how it started. Yeah, especially that column behind you. This is the first one, which the original form was coming from hostels. Yeah, which is actually it's a normal plant, and then it actually has a very long history, and it's usually grow around waters, around pond or lake, river.
Like a sort of grass.
Yeah. So, it's kind of normal that you can find them everywhere. It's also it's beautiful when I realize when you look closer and you can see this. There's a similar form of these plants that make you think about the Greece column. The columns from the architecture, the ancient architecture. So then I started to have this idea that how to combine with the nature plants, the form of the nature plants, and but also get a build up conversation between the nature plants and the architecture forms. So that's the idea of this sculpture.
And it's interesting how I think you kind of see it in other parts of your work as well, but how you've sort of combined, there's a very strong materiality in the work, and you've combined sort of easy to find everyday elements like concrete, which you find on sort of industrial sites, but also sort of soaps and wax, which are sort of more natural to create this sort of like hybrid organic man-made form. And it sort of has a feeling of like it's a sort of living element, perhaps.
Well, I feel, well, as you said, these materials, I'm very familiar with this material, and I have been using them for more than 10 years. So I usually would prefer to choose those easy get material, cheap, or people know them very well. They appeared in your daily life. You can see them everywhere. And also like the soap, well, soap is more special for me, that I started love with this material because it has a very intimacy feeling and touching that make you think about the skin of human body or something. So I think it fits really well with my practice on this figurative sculpture that learning about human bodies, But it's different in these column piece. And the soap I played in these works, it's more like you can find there's a kind of fight between the soap and the concrete, because honestly, it's not easy to mix these two materials together, because the soaps more work with oil, but the concrete is more work with water. So
there's an antagonism between them where they're sort of trying to separate all the time.
Exactly. They're not friendly to each other actually. So but meanwhile, I always love this kind of challenging in the material itself, and it helped me. It helped me to develop with my art practice and with the form of the sculpture. Yeah.
I guess it creates a sort of precariousness in them where they're it feels like they will change in time.
Yeah, soap definitely, it's a changeable material. It's not that strong. When people think about soap, they think, well, it's unstable, it's so fragile, it's soft even. So, but I find this is the part very interesting.
This is based on, similar to the High Line, or the same grasses from the High Line.
Mm.
Then you were saying earlier that this sculpture is based on plants in China?
Yeah. So this piece was when I finished that first column piece, and I finished my residence in New York and go back to my hometown, Shanghai, and then I continued to visiting the local botanic garden and try to talk with the researcher and the gardeners working there. So, and that's a good chance that I started to know more about those plants in my hometown, and I got a chance to know more about these plants, yulan.
Which I think we realised was magnolia.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is one of the very popular plants, flowers. Chinese people really love the flower. So, yeah, but I really get a chance to know more about these plants and the branch and trees parts, and it's very. I find a possibility of this constructure of these plants to transfer into sculpture, and then I start to work on it. So then you can see the second column piece.
And this is the first time you've worked with 3D scanning?
Yes, exactly. It's a very new technique I start to use in my sculpture. Yeah. So I started with the scan, and then make it 8 to 10 times bigger, and then I continue sculpting with the clay. So after working with clay, I do the second round of scan, and then make it bigger until the final.
From the clay, so you can.
Yeah.
It becomes slightly more abstracted, I guess, in the process.
So until I satisfy with the final scale of the sculpture. So it's a very long process. Yeah.
I think moving on to your drawings, it's only the second time you've shown drawings in an exhibition before. It's interesting to see how drawings always been part of your practice, but in more of a kind of study sense. And then only in the last year you've shown them, and I wondered what prompted that, and whether your interpretation of them has changed since then.
I think when I preparing these exhibitions in Sadie Gallery, Bury Street, I was thinking, well, of course, it's the first-time presentation of these two new column pieces, but meanwhile, I wanted to share more practice happened at the same time, because I've been working on these different projects, and different ideas is usually just mixed in your brain, and I think it's nice that to show how this different way of practice that happen at a similar times, how they get crossed to each other. These photos, where I usually just take photos with my cameras, and these photos will come from daily life or a part of my process in new works happening in studio, or some performance I have done somewhere. So it's different, coming from different source, but I do keep collecting those images and try to use them in different ways. Sometimes, if you look back to my earlier exhibitions, sometimes I think about how to build an on-site installation with my existing sculptures and also some images, some like those images here, or that's.
Yes, they're all kind of looking at them now. They're all kind of united by. They all kind of show quite close up sort of hands working. So they're all each called study of gesture.
Mm. Yeah, because my the series of my figurative sculpture, Flesh and Stone, they're more focused on the torso of human body. You see, they normally have no head, yeah, or hands, fingers, or feet. Yeah. Yeah, so it's normally just this part of human body, but for me, the body is separated, so I think it in a separated way. Like on these drawings, I'm more focusing on the gestures of hands, how the movements of our hands, that when you were busy with something on your hand, in these photos, you're doing some cutting or peering or just digging. So I was interested in, and this is a preparing or researching is focusing on hands. This is separated with my torso sculpture, I would say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess it may connect more closely to your sort of almost like your performance.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's quite important about the process. So that's why you see that I'm not only showing sculptures. It's not my only medium work. I also try to transfer all of these things learned during the process of making sculptures to other medias of work, like performance or videos, and now more printings. Yeah.